So we did, the divisor was what? The number of trips they want to take, right? Which is 12 trips. And the dividend was the whole number part of the trip, which is how many miles was there altogether?
1,365.
And when we divided, we got the quotient was how much?
113.
With a remainder of?
9.
9. So we know that there were 9 miles left over that he wants to divide evenly by those 12 trips. So he could do the remainder over the divisor, or 9 over 12, right? And then, as Matthew said, 9 over 12 can be simplified. So it says write the quotient with the remainder written as a fraction in simplest form. So how can we simplify 9/12? We can simplify it to be 3/4, right? So each time Scott's family goes on the hike, how many miles does he need to hike? How many miles does he need to hike? Siddharth?
They need to hike 113 miles and 3/4 of a mile. But I'd also like to add on, an easier way to do this is multiply 9 by 12 divided by 12, and you would get 9 times 12. And then after that you have to put divided by 12, and then
Does that sound easier than this?
No.
I love that you have different ways of thinking about this, but I want you to stay with me right now, okay? So I have a question. If you were Scott and I said, please go hike 113, remainder 9 miles, does that make sense to you?
No.
Does it make sense if I say you need to make sure you hike exactly 113 and 3/4 of a mile today? Would that make more sense? Okay. It says, the segment of the Appalachian Trail that runs through Pennsylvania is 232 miles long. Okay, so Scott and his family are going hiking again. They want to hike exactly 9 miles each day on the trail. Okay, so they're going to divide up this very long trail, 232 miles, into 9-mile segments. How many days will they hike exactly 9 miles? What's the first thing we do when we have a word problem, Rishika?
You find out what the problem was.
So what is the problem asking?
How many days will they hike exactly 9 miles?
Okay, the question is asking how many days will Scott's family hike exactly 9 miles? No more, no less. Okay. What important information do we need to solve this problem? Ashi, what important information do we need to solve this problem?
The Appalachian Trail that runs through Pennsylvania is 232 miles long.
232 miles long. And is that going to be our divisor, our dividend, our quotient, or our remainder? Our dividend, that's our whole number, right? So 232 miles. Is there any other important information we need?
Scott and his family want to hike 9 miles each day on the trail.
They want to do 9 miles each day. So is that going to be our dividend, divisor, remainder, or quotient? Divisor. So our division equation then becomes 232 divided by 9. All right, guys, experts in the field of division, is this a grouping division problem or a sharing division problem? And how do you know? Neha?
I think it's a grouping problem
Why do you think it's a grouping division problem?
because you need to group like 9 miles like in days,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to find out how many days instead of how many miles on
Yeah,
each
do we know how many miles they're going to hike each day? 9. So we know how many miles there are per day or per group. We just have to figure out how many groups or how many days it'll take them, right? Or they can have 9 miles in each day. Very good. Okay, so step 1 is now to divide. So using the standard algorithm, should I start in the hundreds place, the tens place, or the ones place? And how do you know? Arushi?
You should start in the tens place
Why?
because 9 can't go into 2, but we know 9 can go into 23 twice.
Okay.
So then our first digit would be in the tens place.
Very good. And she already told us how many times how many times can Dad come in and divide 23 divided by 9? I'm seeing 2. Okay, so 23 divided by 9 is 2. Adam, then Mom multiplies 2 times 9 is? 18. Sister subtracts 23 minus 18. Yarden? 5. And brother brings down, Jason brings down the 2. Now, Dad comes back in. He needs to divide now 52 divided by 9. 52 divided by 9. How many times does 9 go into 52? Harshita? 5 times. 5 times 9, Mom multiplies, and she gets, Liam?
45.
45. When sister subtracts, she gets what, Karan?
7.
7. And there's nothing left for brother to bring down, so my answer when I divide is 25, remainder 7. Now, let's go back and read the question. It says, how many days will they hike exactly 9 miles? So if I say they will hike 9 miles for exactly 25, remainder 7 days. Does that make sense? So how can I make sense? What do I do with the remainder? Do I need to make it into a fraction?
Yeah.
How many days will they hike exactly 9 miles? If I do 25 and I take the remainder and put it over the divisor, so it'd be 25 and 7/9 days?
No. No.
Does that make sense?
No.
Do we think of days like that?
No.
I've been 10 now for 25 and 7/9 days. Does that make sense? So if the question's asking how many days will they hike exactly 9 miles, what is the answer, Stuart?
25.
Exactly 25 days, right? On the 26th day, will they hike exactly 9 miles?
No.
No. So the answer then is 25 days. Now, Siddharth, what if the question said, what is the total number of days that Scott will need to hike 232 miles? What if the question said that instead?
Well, if the question said that instead, you need to put a remainder because you can't. It's asking exactly how many days you hike 9 miles.
So what was our answer when we did our division problem?
Well, our answer was 25 days.
25 days. Okay, so was there any remainders?
Yeah. Well, yes, but you shouldn't really write it because it's asking how many days will you only hike 9 miles.
But what does the question now say?
Well, not saying
Read us the question now.
okay, what is the total number of days that Scott will need to hike 232 miles?
Okay, so what is the total number of days that Scott will need to hike those 232 miles? Will they finish in 25 days?
No.
Do they need to go on to one more day?
Yes.
So what is the answer if the question said, what is the total number of days that Scott will need to hike 232 miles? What should the answer be in this case? Daniel?
25 some nights. Days.
Okay, if I tell you, Daniel, please go on a trip for exactly 25 and 7/9 days, will you know exactly how long to go for? Does that make sense? Do we think of days like that? So what should we say instead? How many days? I'm not asking you how many days and hours. How many days will it take Scott to hike exactly, or to hike all of those 232 miles? Joseph?
25.
If he's hiked 25 days, is he still going to have some miles left over? So how many days will it take him to hike those 232 miles? Shreya?
26 because when the 25th day starts at 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
Basically, but they still have 7/9 of a mile to.
No, they still have 7 miles.
Yeah, 7
Yeah.
miles to walk. So walk or hike.
Mm-hmm.
So only on the start of the 26th day will they be done with everything.
Very good. Let's take a look at this remainder 7. Shreya just told us, what does that remainder 7 mean? How many miles left over after they divide them into 9-hour chunks? How many miles left over do they have, Tanvi?
Well, they have 7 miles.
Yeah. So on the 26th day, are they hiking 9 miles?
No.
They're just hiking 7 miles. But do they still need that 26th day to finish their hike?
Yes.
Yeah. So if they want to know how many number of days total they have to plan for their trip, we now know they need to plan to have at least 26 days, right? Now, what if the question said, if Scott hikes 9 miles each day except the last day, how many miles will he hike on the last day? How many miles will he hike on the last day? Zara? How do you know?
Because the 9 miles each day would be 25 days, but then you still have 7 miles left over.
Yeah, okay.
So you have to go 100.
Exactly. So on the last day, he only needs to hike 7 miles. Okay?